Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? This is going to be an interactive video. No, it's not live, but what I'm asking for is your responses. And yes, people respond to my videos all the time, which is really cool. And who wouldn't respond? They're fascinating and yeah, no, forget all that. But that's always nice when somebody responds and we have some kind of dialogue. But I'd like to play a game with you. And like all games, this one has rules. And so the rules of this game are when I ask a question at the end of this video, your answers have to be backed up by or maybe derived from the text of this game, because this is the game I've been examining, the game I've been running for kids at the library. And library, did I say library? Library. Anyhow, so your answer has to be backed up by the text of the game, the three core books, not from online sources, not from some kind of sage advice, but from the actual text of the game, the stuff that you can actually buy. The product, the finished product, hopefully, that came out. All right? So here we go. And this whole question or line of thought is based upon experiences I've had running the game for the children at the library, which has been a lot of fun. Very often they declare some kind of intention. They want to do something. They want to disarm somebody. They want to hit him and make his arm numb. Or I want to, grapple this guy so he can't get away, and so it's easier for us to hit him and all this kind of stuff, right? And I've made some judgment calls, and I realized looking through the text recently that I've been doing some things wrong. I've been too lenient. And we were having a discussion in another group of adults about role-playing games and about resistance to system mastery. And somebody brought up the example of grappling in a particular version of Dungeons and Dragons, actually first edition, and the rules were horrific. And we were talking about like how various games handle grappling. It's just kind of like an example of something. And, it made me look back in this book to see how grappling got handled. But first, in order to understand that, you have to look back at Appendix A. Appendix A in this book is actually pretty cool. What they do is they have a list of conditions, and it gives you the mechanical definition of what those conditions are. So when you say somebody is blinded or charmed or deafened or frightened or grappled or incapacitated, invisible, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, restrained, stunned, and unconscious, these are signal words. These are very specific terms in this game, and each one of these terms or conditions, as they're called, comes with particular mechanical attributes, if you will, or is mechanically described, and there's ways to become unfrightened and undeafened or whatever, depending on the particular thing. Lets you know what's happening. So it's consistent. It's part of the rules of the game. So it's not just willy-nilly, it's actually in there. Cool, right? And so, kudos to them. So the definition of grappled is a grappled creature's speed becomes 0, and it can't benefit from any bonus to its speed. And then it talks about how the condition ends, how the condition ends. All right? There's also another condition called restrained. A restrained creature's speed becomes 0. It can't benefit from any bonus to its speed. Okay, so same as grappled. And attack rolls against the creatures have advantage, and the creature's attack rolls have disadvantage. And the creature also has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. This sounds a lot more like what we're trying to do very often when we say, I want to grapple somebody. It's certainly what the children were trying to do when they grappled somebody. They really wanted to not entirely incapacitate them, because, of course, that's another definition, but they want to restrain them. They want to make it easier to hit them and, harder for them to hit somebody else. And I have in the past, when they've grappled somebody, allowed them to have that sort of, effect, because I just didn't think of it. Didn't go back and look at the conditions. I looked here and said, oh man, I've been doing this wrong. So, go back to the combat chapter of this book, because what I actually ended up looking at when we were having this discussion with the adults. And it talks about how to grapple somebody. If you want to grapple a creature or wrestle with it, and you can use your attack action, you make a special attack, and there's a whole bunch of little rules about size and everything like that. And then you're making an athletics check contested by the target's athletics or acrobatics, their choice, etc. And it talks about success or failure, and then how they can try to break the grapple every round, etc. Right? So specific set of rules. The end result is the creature is grappled. And what's grappled? Grapple is their move is 0, and they can't benefit from any increases to their speed. Has nothing to do with them being restrained, which is where the other effects of being, having advantage to attack them, they have a disadvantage to attack anybody else, they have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws, etc. So I looked through the other books, the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual. And I figured the Monster Manual might have some interesting information, because after all, it's got these classic creatures like ropers with all these tendrils, and they might grapple somebody. And sure enough, I found several examples of creatures that grapple people. But let's talk about the roper, for example. When the roper hits somebody with their tendril melee attack, the target is grappled. It's escape DC 15. Until the grapple ends, the target is restrained and has disadvantage on strength checks and strength saving throws, so something else happens, not just dexterity, but strength as well. And it goes on some other monsters that do the same thing when they grapple a target. The target is also restrained. Now, yes, this is crappy writing. These are very specific terms. I guess it would be a little bit hard to figure out how to say, then the roper restrains somebody. Well, I guess that's what they're doing. They're restraining somebody. They're not grappling them because it's a different condition. Okay, don't stop being so nitpicky, Ivan. Okay, just a little bit. But still, these are specific terms. However, this is more like what we're looking for. We're looking for to restrain somebody. The question is, according to the rules of this book, how do you restrain somebody? I checked. I looked. I went to pirated copies of the PDF so I could search, for the instances of the word in the 3 core books. Seems to be silent. Seems to be no way, according to the rules, to actually restrain somebody. Aren't you being like really nitpicky, Ivan? Can't you just, extrapolate from the... Maybe. Yeah, but still, because these conditions have been spelled out exactly what they are, and because there's very specific rules in this book to grapple somebody, and there's very specific rules to do a whole bunch of other things. I remember I was just re-looking back at one of the videos I did about the action economy of Dungeons & Dragons, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, how specific that is and how you can make some poor rulings till you understand that. Okay, let's take these rules a little seriously here for a second. How do you restrain somebody? If you know, and you can back it up with the text, let me know.